Hello and welcome to Criminal Record, the Daily Record's weekly crime podcast. My name is Ruth Suter and I'm joined by our crime reporter, Norman Silvester. Norman is going to talk us through the big crime stories that we've covered within the last week. Norman, welcome. How are you today?
Well, very well, thank you. Good to
Good.
see you, Ruth.
Earlier this week, we reported on a rise of the number of officers being suspended from duty, particularly for sexual offences. According to data which was released to us by Police Scotland through Freedom of Information, 65 officers were suspended last year compared to 44 between 2023 and 2024. Norman, you spoke to the Police Federation about this. What did they tell you?
Yeah, this is an interesting one, Ruth. There's been an increase in the number of police officers suspended from duty for various offences. It could be criminal offences. Some are related to allegations of sexual assault or domestic abuse incidents that have happened out with the workplace. Others could be offences within the workplace. For example, it breaches data protection, accessing the police computer without the correct authority, breaches of their own sort of workplace terms and conditions, the types of things you might get in any workplace, and also breach of the professional standards. So it's a bit of a mixture. So, for example, we saw a couple of weeks ago, in fact, we saw in December, Jane Connors, who's the Deputy Chief Constable, she was suspended over bullying allegations. Conversely, we've seen other police officers suspended from duty for criminal offences, including sexual assault. So there's a bit of a wide range of incidents. In the past, Scotland police forces have tended to take the view that unless it's a very serious offence, the police officer can remain in duty, perhaps not frontline duties, but kind of back office duties, and continue to provide a service to the public, but maybe taking a bit out the front line. But we seem to see more and more cases, as with the Deputy Constable, there's been allegations of bullying against her. She's simply been suspended from duty. There's no kind of criminal allegations, there's more a kind of internal kind of process that seems to be going on. Now, we spoke to David Kennedy, who's General Secretary of the Scottish Police Federation. They've got a big concern about the number of officers being suspended. They recognise there's been an increase in the sort of sexual allegations. But they're quick to point out that if an officer is suspended from duty, it doesn't mean that they've done anything wrong. Everybody's innocent until proven guilty. But their main concern seems to be that the suspension is being used as a first resort, and they say it should always be a last resort.
And now, within the past couple of days, there was a fresh appeal for information regarding the murder of Jordan Gray in Motherwell last month. So Jordan, who was a new dad, he was shot dead at home on December 14th. Crime Stoppers are offering an award of £20,000 for any information that can help police to find the killer. We've also got some harrowing footage of the police and Jordan's family appealing for information, which we can actually share with you right now.
We're here today to issue a further appeal for information on the murder of Jordan Gray. As you'll be aware, Jordan suffered fatal firearm wounds within his home address in Shields Court in Motherwell shortly after 10:30 p.m. on Sunday, 14th of December 2025. Inquiries continue to identify a person seen on Shields Court around 10:35 p.m. on Sunday, 14th December, wearing a dark jacket with a hood up and dark trousers.
We are here today to appeal for any information leading to finding out who murdered our son in cold blood. We are devastated by our loss. His sisters and wee brother are struggling to understand how someone could do this to their big brother. If anyone knows anything about what happened to Jordan, no matter how small, that you come forward and speak to the police.
So the killer here is obviously still at large, and it's quite a particularly savage murder case. Norman, what was the full update?
Yes, this is a real tragedy, a real shocking incident, because he was a young man, a young father. He only become a father in September. He leaves behind, obviously, mother and father. He's got younger brothers and sisters. It's a real tragedy, and it's a real kind of almost baffling whodunit, But I think it's of particular concern as a firearm's been used. Firearm murders of people that have been shot and fatally injured is still relatively rare in Scotland. And it's an unusual incident insofar as we know that Jordan is 26-year-old, he was due 27th birthday was about to come up. He'd been at home in Motherwell. He's got a flat in the Shields Court area of Motherwell. He was found dead by a family member. It appears he'd been shot through the chest. From the information that we've gleaned from the family member, he was found lying on like a settee or a sofa. The police have launched a major investigation. They're looking at local CCTV. They've done operations on the anniversary or the week after the murder and speak to local residents who might have been in the area, local people. What we do know, or what has been revealed or has been said, is it would appear that a male or a person is seen going into the flat, Jordan's flat, possibly around 11:15, and that's been captured on a kind of doorbell type security. Now, that's not been confirmed, but what that might suggest is that maybe some sort of targeted attack. Is it possible Jordan has allowed the person into the house? You know, why is somebody visiting him at that time of night? Has he been allowed into the house, or is he broken in? Is it somebody that Jordan knows? Is it possible just a random attack, somebody with a firearm, or is it being targeted? But the family, both his mother and stepfather, made quite an emotional and moving appeal for information last week. They want to know why their son was shot dead in the way that it was. It's a brutal murder. It's almost an assassination.
Mhm.
They want answers to that. The police want answers to that. And with that in mind, Crime Stoppers last week or the last few days have put out a £20,000 reward. And that'll be for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the person responsible. It's a significant sum of money. Crime Stoppers do regular rewards for people that phone in with information. But this is one that they've set up specifically to try and solve this murder. And let's hope we get some answers.
Absolutely. It's probably important to say if anybody is listening
Yes.
and they have any information about Jordan's murder, or if they have any information about people in the area at the time, to definitely get in touch with police or Crime Stoppers.
Definitely. I think if you know anything about the murder, if you saw anybody acting suspicious that night, you might know a bit about the background. I wouldn't necessarily assume that the police know everything. And we kind of want to solve this because at the end of the day, we can't have people running about with guns, shooting and murdering people. Who's to say what might have happened if somebody had intervened, or could this person armed with a firearm, could they have used it again? If somebody's prepared to shoot someone once, they may be prepared to do it again. So I think in the interest of public safety, in the interest of Jordan's family, we need to try and bring this person to justice.
Absolutely. Elsewhere, Norman, you reported on a rise in the number of drink spiking cases and concerns over a low detection rate. So I think it's 1 in 10, one case per every 10 that leads to a conviction. Women seem to be the main target, but men are actually also falling victim too. Why are so few people being caught for this?
Yeah, this is a very concerning kind of rise. It's a newish crime, not particularly. It's probably one of these ones that's always happened,
Mhm.
but we're becoming more aware of it in recent years. So basically, it's drink spiking. So there's three types of spiking. One, the main one seems to be where someone's drink is spiked as a prank. So somebody might put a drug in it, some sort of drug, or might put other alcohol into it. It's a bit of a prank, a very reckless prank, but a prank nevertheless. But there's obviously more sinister incidents. Some involve, again, putting a drug into a person's drink with a view to robbing them, to maybe stealing their wallet or phone or whatever. But we also know of incidents where women have been targeted by men who have spiked their drink and then used when they become unconscious or are not able to look after themselves, then become victims of sexual assaults. We've seen a couple of very serious cases recently where in Fife and Kirkcaldy, where an individual was jailed for quite a substantial period of time after he got two women drunk or spiked their drinks in a nightclub and sexually assaulted them. So this is very concerning. Since probably around about 2018, we've seen something like about 800 incidents, but only 1 in 10 have resulted in convictions. And the main reason for this is that quite often people don't realise that they've been victims. You know, it might not be until 2 or 3 days later they've maybe felt woozy, they've fallen asleep, they've been unconscious, and they've not really realised their drink has been spiked. And obviously by that time it could be too late. You know, if the police inform, you know, the body might have cleared up of it, of that particular drug or poison. You know, there's not really any evidence. By the time the police go back to the pub or the club where the spiking happened, maybe the drinks have been washed or the glasses have been washed. There might not even be any CCTV. And it's also worth mentioning that a large number of victims are young people. A lot of these things happen around nightclubs when it's dark. No, bars by nature can be quite dark, kind of almost dingy places, and a lot of these things can happen under cover of darkness. We spoke with Colin Mackey. His son Greg died in 2017. He was a pupil at Edinburgh University. He's a suspected drink spiking victim. He would like to see a law introduced that they have in England, whereby it's a single offence of drink spiking. He believes that would be easier for the police to get convictions because, as I've alluded to earlier, there's a lack of witnesses, there's a lack of the sort of forensic evidence, eyewitness evidence that you need. If people have been drinking, they may be drunk themselves, they may not have a clear recollection of what happened. And they would, and other groups would like to see pubs get more involved, better CCTV, stewards and door staff trained to keep an eye on people maybe acting suspiciously near tables, and also keep what the campaigners like to see, like Colin Mackey, is a pub supplying things like covers for drinks. So if you leave your drink unattended, which you shouldn't really do, you can put a cover over it, and also make drug testing kits, strips that you can stick in the drink and test if they come up positive. They're not 100% reliable, but again, it's a tool people can use to protect themselves. Well, but I think overall, especially young people, particularly students that are out having nights out enjoying themselves, is don't leave your drink unattended, and look out for your pals as well.
Absolutely. Any safeguarding measure there is definitely a good idea. We also told earlier this week how Romanian accountant George McCaughey, who has previously been linked to organised crime, is fighting extradition back to his homeland. This has raised concern about the influence of organised crime from Eastern Europe and Scotland. What's the latest on this story, Norman?
Yeah, this is an interesting story. We wrote about Georgi Marcoce. He's a 55-year-old accountant from Romania. He ran his own business there. He was accused by the Romanian authorities of tax evasion. He stood trial in about 2017, two separate charges of tax evasion. He was convicted in both and sentenced a total of 10 years in prison. But while this judicial process was underway, Mr. Marcoce went to live in Scotland and settled in Troon, where we believe he's living at the moment. We believe he's married with children living in Troon. We also believe he continued to run his accountancy business in Romania from Scotland. In his absence, as I said earlier, he was sentenced to 10 years in prison. He's not served that sentence, and now the Romanian authorities want to extradite him back to Romania to serve that 10-year prison sentence. He has appealed the extradition request. We know that in March last year, Edinburgh Sheriff Court, they ruled that he could be extradited back to Romania. He appealed that. So the appeal hearing decision was given last week, and the three judges who heard the appeal ruled that the Edinburgh Sheriff Court, or the Sheriff of Edinburgh Sheriff Court, was right to grant the extradition, and that there was nothing wrong in the process that he went through. Mr. Marcoce has argued that he's a victim of politics, and that he's been unfairly targeted, and that the extradition request is breaching his human rights. That was all kind of thrown out. and he's now facing extradition back to Romania. The interesting thing is, in his own evidence that he gave, he said that he believed that the Romanian authorities believed that he was involved in organised crime. Basically, his accountancy practice has about 160 clients who he described as high profile. And basically, he's alleging that the Romanian authorities want details of his clients, as do the security services. He refused to do so, as he's obliged to protect their confidentiality. So he says he's a bit of a kind of target of the system. All he was doing is protecting his clients' right to sort of privacy, but now he's facing extradition back to Romania. What, interestingly enough, though, 3 months after he lost the extradition case in March last year, he applied for asylum. So he's applied for political asylum. That's now been considered, and while that's been considered, the extradition case goes on hold. If he's successful with the asylum application, he'll be allowed to remain here. If he's unsuccessful, then he'll be extradited back to Romania. But what I think it does show is that, we've got this alleged link to organised crime. We know that in Scotland, a lot of crime gangs from Eastern Europe, Romania and Albania have set up operations here. We know that a lot of the cannabis farms are linked to Albanian gangs, and there's been a lot of people trafficking and trafficking of women for sexual exploitation through gangs from Romania and Albania. Now, no one's suggesting that Mr. Marcocci is involved in any of that, but he's obviously considered the case is serious enough for the Romanian authorities to invest a lot of money in bringing him back to Romania, and probably also shows you never know who's living next door to you either.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how that case plays out.
Definitely, yes.
Speaking of organised crime, we've also been keeping our readers up to date with the latest developments in the long-running Gangland feud between members and associates of the Lions and Daniel crime clan. Our colleague John Paul reported on a high-level meeting or summit earlier this month involving both players. What happened at that, Norman?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. People will be familiar with our coverage of the long-running feud between the Lions and Daniel family. It's led to quite considerable violence, including murder. That's one that dates back almost 25 years. We had a more recent escalation of that in March last year, where members of the Daniel crime family and associates were targeted in a series of fire bombings and assaults with bladed weapons, both in Edinburgh and Glasgow. We've seen various court cases arising out of that, and people given fairly lengthy prison sentences. So what we learned was that two people who have been alleged to be involved in organised crime and alleged to be connected to the violence, Ross King and Stephen Lyons, who's a major significant member of the Lyons family. They'd previously been living in Dubai, and United Arab Emirates. We'd reported on how they were asked to leave over the autumn period. We don't know where they are now, but we're reporting how that both Ross McGill and Stephen Lyons had a fairly lengthy phone call, and the allegation is that they seem to be planning a further escalation of the violence that we've seen against members and associates of the Daniel family. Now, there's also been a suggestion that the Daniel family have regained a bit of control of their affairs and crime in Glasgow with the recent violence. We do know that it's been widely reported of the double murder at the end of May, when Ross Monaghan, member of the Lyons crime family, and Eddie Lyons were both shot dead in a bar in Fungarola that Monaghan owned, Monaghan's Bar. And the suggestion is, though we know a man from Liverpool's been arrested and extradited back to Spain to stand trial for that the Lyons family believe the Daniels were involved in the murder, and they ordered it or planned it or initiated it. So what we're really seeing is possibly a further escalation of this long-running feud between the Lyons and Daniel family that may well result in further violence. And our colleague John Paul was reporting on this meeting, not a meeting, but a phone call that took place between Ross McGill and Stephen Lyons a couple of weeks ago, where it's alleged that they're planning a further escalation of this feud.
Well, if there is any more plans, I'm sure that will keep us busy as journalists in Scotland. Finally, new figures show that women are 3 times more likely to fall victim to domestic abuse-related murder than men in Scotland. There were 54 female homicide victims between 2018 and last year, compared to 16 men during the same period. That data relates to women killed by a partner, ex-partner, or relative in the home or elsewhere. What are women's groups saying about this, Norman?
Yeah, we highlight the figures, very concerning figures, probably reflecting what we already know or suspect, that, as you say, women are more likely to be murdered in the home as part of some sort of domestic dispute or argument by a partner. 54 since 2018 compared to 16 for men. And this is where the woman is a victim of a partner, ex-partner, or family member, and it applies to the males as well. But basically highlighting that, disparity between the number of homicides where the woman is a victim and the man is a victim. So we spoke to a couple of women's groups, Wise Women, which is a women's safety charity, and Scottish Women's Aid, and they're both very concerned, as you would imagine, with the figures. The charity Wise Women were saying that what we need to do is need to invest more in the judicial system and the court system to make sure that we can intervene at an early stage. The suggestion is that a lot of the cases that result in a murder or a homicide is an escalation of previous behaviour. So what they're saying is we need to identify men that are involved in domestic violence at an early stage. So this could be lower level offences that are coming through the domestic violence courts. We need to be a bit stricter. For example, when we're granting bail, they would like to see less bail for domestic violence offences, particularly if it's a repeat offender. We need to be keeping people behind bars until such times as they stand trial if they have a history of domestic violence. There needs to be more services for women, more places they can go, more interventions. One of the interesting things was that we spoke to Wise Women. They were saying that a lot of women, for example, can't get legal aid to enable them to break up a relationship. So if they want to end a relationship, obviously if they're married, they need to get a divorce or a separation first and then a divorce. That costs money. You need legal advice. You need to go through the courts. You need to raise action to court. So what they're saying is women need more support from the system. You need to identify offenders at an early stage. We know of cases which we've highlighted the Daily Record of men that have been convicted of violence against women, where there may be multiple female victims, as many as 5, and these men become predators. And then you have the domestic violence, where a woman may be the target of one man in the home, but she can't break out of that relationship. It is a concern in the sense that more women are coming forward, and they're a lot younger. So it's a question: is it happening more often, or is more women reporting it? It's probably a bit of both. We spoke to Police Scotland as well. They have a kind of disclosure abuse scheme. So where if you suspect your partner might have a history of domestic violence, you can contact the police and they can share that information with them. Or if they suspect you could be the victim of domestic violence from some sort of serial habitual offender, then they can contact you. But it's certainly a horrendous problem. It's contributed to probably disproportionate to the number of homicides. We know there's a growing number of men being put behind bars, but it's not happening in all cases. So it's a concerning problem, and I think it boils down to a lot of problems to do with law and order and crime and punishment. We just need to be spending more money on it and investing more resources.
Okay, thank you, Norman, for joining us, and to our audience for tuning in. If you've got any questions for us or the team, you can email reporters@dailyrecord.co.uk with the subject line criminal record. We'll be back next week, but in the meantime, you can subscribe to us, listen to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts by searching Criminal Record, or you can watch it each week on our YouTube channel.